I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. My hands are shaking, and my breath comes in short, ragged bursts. My name is Dr. Amelia Clarke, and I'm a researcher at the SCP Foundation. I've encountered things that most people couldn't even imagine in their worst nightmares, but nothing has gotten under my skin like SCP. It started like any other assignment. The anomaly was discovered in an abandoned mansion on the outskirts of a small town in Maine. The locals whispered about the house being haunted, but we've all heard that before. When I arrived with my team, the place looked exactly like every other decrepit, spooky mansion, overgrown ivy, broken windows, the works. Our first inspection of the house was uneventful. We catalogued the structure, noting the usual signs of decay and neglect. It wasn't until the second day that things started to get range. The first sign was a door that shouldn't have been there. We had mapped the entire house, yet this door, on the second floor, leading to what should have been the outside wall, appeared overnight. Being the team leader, I took point. The door creaked open to reveal a small, dimly lit room, empty except for a single, ancient-looking armchair in the center. Dust motes floated lazily in the light streaming through a high, barred window. It didn't feel right, but it was my job to investigate. I stepped into the room, and the temperature dropped instantly. My breath came out in visible puffs. Ignoring the chill, I inspected the chair. It was an old Victorian-style piece, with faded red velvet and ornate wooden arms. As I turned to leave, something caught my eye, a movement, just out of sight, like a shadow slipping through the walls. I spun around, heart pounding, but the room was empty. Back in the corridor, my team was waiting, and I could see the concern in their eyes. I brushed it off, attributing it to the isolation and the eerie atmosphere. But that night, I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I woke up abruptly at 3:33 a.m., the exact time every night since we arrived. My heart raced, and a sense of dread washed over me. I lay still, listening to the house creak and groan. Then I heard a faint whisper, coming from the direction of the room. The next morning, I decided to confront the anomaly head-on. I went back to the room with a recording device, determined to document whatever was happening. As I stepped inside, the door slammed shut behind me. Panic rose in my throat, but I forced myself to stay calm. The whispering began again, louder this time, unintelligible and layered, as if a crowd of voices were speaking over each other. I turned on the recorder and asked, "Is anyone here?" The whispering stopped abruptly, replaced by a deafening silence. Then, a single, clear voice broke through. "Leave." My heart hammered as I backed toward the door, which thankfully opened without resistance. I played back the recording for my team. The static was overwhelming, but the word "leave" was unmistakable. We agreed to report the anomaly and request further instructions. By the fourth night, sleep was impossible. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw the room, the chair, and the shadows that seemed to dance just beyond the edge of my vision. I decided to stay awake, documenting everything in my journal. Around 3:33 a.m., the whispering began again, louder than before, filling the room. I clutched my journal, recording every word, every sound. The voices were getting clearer, forming disjointed sentences. "Remember pain, never forget." It was as if the room itself was alive, feeding off my fear and exhaustion. My skin crawled, and I felt an overwhelming urge to run, to leave the house and never look back. But I couldn't. Not yet. There was something here, something important. On the fifth day, our request for additional support was granted. A team of specialists arrived, armed with equipment designed to detect and contain paranormal activity. I briefed them on our findings, though I could see the skepticism in their eyes. They hadn't experienced it. They didn't know. That night, we set up surveillance equipment around the room. Cameras, motion detectors, thermal imaging, all of it trained on that damned armchair. The specialists took turns monitoring the feeds while I tried to get some rest. At 3:33 a.m., I was jolted awake by a blood-curdling scream. I rushed to the control room, where the team was frantically trying to make sense of the chaos on the screens. The chair was no longer empty. A figure sat in it, barely visible, as if made of shadow and mist. Its head was tilted back, mouth open in a silent scream. The equipment was going haywire, temperatures fluctuating wildly, static drowning out the audio. I knew we were dealing with something beyond our understanding, something that couldn't be contained by conventional means. The figure seemed to lock eyes with the camera, and a sense of foreboding washed over me. I knew, without a doubt, that it was aware of us. In the days that followed, we tried everything: exorcisms, containment protocols, even attempting to destroy the room. Nothing worked. The house itself seemed to fight back, sealing the room off when we tried to enter, bombarding us with hallucinations and whispers. My team began to unravel. One by one, they succumbed to the fear and paranoia, leaving only me. The Foundation decided to quarantine the entire area, declaring it a no-go zone. I was ordered to leave, to forget, but how could I? The room had etched itself into my mind, its whispers a constant companion. Now, I sit in my office, surrounded by files and recordings that no one will ever see. The room is still out there waiting, remembering, and every night at 3:33 a.m., I wake up, my heart pounding, the whispers echoing in my ears. I don't know how much longer I can keep this up. The room that remembers is calling, and I fear that soon I'll have no choice but to answer.